This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
All right, so some Browns news has broke. The Browns have have pretty much made it official that they're moving to Brook Park. I think this has been something that's been in the cards, but that's not the only thing we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss who's practiced today, who's in and out, or who looks like they could be in or out for Sunday, what that means for this team going forward. And also we're going to talk about if Jeudy is capable of being a number one wide receiver, and if we're putting Jeudy in the best position possible to develop by making him play number one wide receiver. First things first, let's talk about the Browns. Pretty much as official as you can get, moving to Brook Park. They dropped the renders. They bought the plot of land. There was some debate going on with the city that I believe to be fairly cordial at this point. And now they have informed the city that they're going to go ahead and move forward with the stadium at Brook Park. Now, this isn't the last you're going to hear of this, because this is just the Haslams making the decision that this is what they're going to try to do. What's going to come next is they're going to ask for money from the county, possibly from the city of Cleveland as well, to build this facility, which is going to lead to a whole nother round of debates on this whole thing. And then we'll secure funding. For now, the stadium will get built. There's a good chance that there's probably going to be, some hiccup with the construction. We got a long way to go before this stadium is truly put into motion, truly broken ground, and truly about to open. We got a little bit of a ways to go, but it does look like they're going to make the effort now officially to build the stadium in Brook Park. I don't mind a dome stadium. I know a lot of people don't mind the dome stadium. There's been some debate whether the Browns should stay in a dome, should not be in a dome. I think if you do the dome right, it'll be fine, right? If you build a nice dome with a lot of sunlight in there, a lot of natural lighting in there, you will be able to kind of alleviate some of the concerns about the environment that it would be in Cleveland Browns Stadium or whatever, Huntington Bank Stadium. It would be still feel like football, right? I think a lot of people's first concern is hey, if the Browns play in a dome, will it feel like Cleveland Browns football? I think if you give it enough time and they play good football in that dome, it'll feel like Cleveland Browns football. Now, if they open a new dome and stink, then it's not going to feel like Cleveland Browns football, or maybe it will. But that being said, that is the whole Brook Park thing. They're going to try to build that stadium there. We'll see what the effects are with the Browns leaving downtown. The downtown still has the Guardians and the Cavs, which do provide way more dates than the Browns. The Browns do provide the most people per game, but the Guardians, they have 82 dates. The Cleveland Cavaliers bring in 41 dates a year, plus anything that's a concert there. The Browns would pull away stuff like WrestleMania, Final Four, but also that would be stuff that they're not able to get right now that they would be able to get, that you would think would also help out downtown as well. There's a lot of ways to look at it. We're going to debate this thing for the next 20 years. But that's the Browns' plan as of right now, is to build a dome stadium at Brook Park, and the day that the Browns play there. And I think this is the one aspect of it that I think a lot of people have kind of hand-waved. There is a historical element of this that is kind of sad when you think of it. As much as I am for a dome and I don't mind the location in Brook Park, the day that the Browns play their first game at Brook Park, it will be the first time in this franchise's history that they have not played a game by the lake in the city of Cleveland. They've always been on that plot of land for at least as long as they've been in the NFL, and this will be the first time that they're not playing on that plot of land, which is unfortunate. Some people think that plot of land is cursed, so maybe it's not unfortunate, but that plot of land there will be the first time that the Browns have not played there in the NFL, maybe even going back to the AAFL days. So, yeah, that's the situation with the stadium. Browns seem to be officially getting everything in gear to move to Brook Park. We'll see how everything else works out. We'll see who's going to be asked to fund most of this stadium. The last we heard from the Neo Trans blog is that this was going to be funded by sales tax, mainly like sales tax bonds, mainly. I'm not going to act like I have any experience in local government and I know anything about what that means. It's somebody who's a tax expert or somebody who's worked in a municipality can break that down. I'm not the guy to tell you how that's going to all break down. But yeah, that's what the Browns are doing. They're moving to Brook Park. They already released the renders, so it felt like it was pretty much a done deal. Now we're sitting here and it's essentially a done deal. The Browns will be moving to Brook Park, which is about 10 minutes outside the city limits of Cleveland, when they will be near the Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, which already does have RTA lines going to it, fortunately. My only thing with like building a stadium in Brook Park and it being this like enclosed stadium park thing is I really hope they don't do the thing where they only make it like, so there's like 3 ways to get into the stadium park. So you're just in the parking lot for like hours. I hate when they do that. And they don't make it like super accessible to get to via train. Like driving to these stadium parks are a pain in the ass because they're just super enclosed environments. They don't want you parking in a garage down the street. That's the biggest benefit to me personally. Like I'm just talking about this selfishly, with the Browns being downtown, is that there's a million parking garages downtown. You don't have to park at Cleveland Browns Stadium to park your car. So you could just park in the garage. That garage is going to be as full as that garage is, but it's not going to be 70,000 people trying to get out. Like everybody who came to the game is in that lot. It's like maybe a tiny percentage, and you can get in and out of downtown a little bit faster. Also, they have the rails that run right to the stadium. I hope they keep it so that you can get in and out of there fast if you drive, and if you choose to take transit, you can get in and out of there fast. I think that would be really good, just for like quality of enjoyment, because a lot of stadiums I've been to that have been built in this suburban stadium park style missed the mark on that. So that's kind of the stadium stuff. I kind of droned on there a little bit. Who practiced today? Good news about who practiced, who did not. Only Ronnie Hickman and Jerome Ford did not practice this today. And this might be the best week for them to miss a game, because it looks like Juan Thornhill is going to be back. And by the way, I know a lot of people are critical of Juan Thornhill, but just by looking at the All-22, we've missed Juan Thornhill quite a bit on this defense, especially in run defense. Jerome Ford is also likely going to be out this week. He has not practiced the last 2 days. I don't see him playing this week, but that's fine because you're going to get Nick Chubb back and you're likely to get Nyheim Hines back. So that's 2 running backs you're going to get back. Pierre Strong's coming off a really good game last week, and you still got Deontay Foreman. You got 4 running backs that you feel good about running here if you're the Cleveland Browns. And I expect them to run the ball a lot, right? They're going to give Nyheim Hines some carries. They're going to give Pierre Strong some carries, Deontay Foreman some carries, and Nick Chubb some carries. And this Browns team ran the ball a ton last week. Cincinnati Bengals are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. I expect them from now until the end of the season to utilize that run game very heavily, because they can't really rely on the passing game as we've seen with this start of the season. So that's really good that you're getting all those guys back. That also means Ethan Posick was back at practice. So you're getting close to getting a fully healthy offensive line. Jack Conklin is back. He returned last week. Jed Wills is back. He returned last week. He's not on the injury report right now. Ethan Posick being back. And then you have Joe Bitonio. So you'll have 4 of your 5 starters, hopefully. And then maybe if you get into I think in a couple of weeks, you can get Wyatt Teller back from IR, and that will be even better. Look, this offensive line has to play better. Whether Deshaun's out there or not, this offensive line was always going to have to play better. And a big part of them playing better since the start of the season was them getting healthy, right? They started the season without Jed Wills. They started the season without Jack Conklin. They had Ethan Posick going in and out at times. Joe Bitonio is still very good, but still very old. Wyatt Teller went out at a time in this season. Like, your offensive line has not played well. They've also been the least healthy unit on this team. So it makes sense that they haven't played well. Last week, we had to play a guard at emergency center, and we had issues with the snap count that ended up costing the Browns a game. It's not a mistake that the injuries on the offensive line continue to kind of hurt this team. So if you get healthier on the offensive line, I'm not saying you're going to go undefeated for the rest of the season, but the opportunities you have to win some of these games might finally be able to be executed against, because I can count 2 times on my hand where the Browns could have won a game, but because of injuries specifically at the center position, we could not execute on those opportunities to win these games that you can argue we shouldn't have won in the first place, right? The Raiders game, if Ethan Posick does not hold, not Ethan Posick, my bad, if Nick Harris does not hold in that situation, you have a chance to win a game. If Nick Harris does not snap the ball early in that situation, you have a chance to win that game. And then last week, where you have your emergency guard / center having to play center for the first time in his Browns career, he fumbles up the snap count, ends up causing 2 false starts late in this game. And then you have to kick a field goal instead of go for a touchdown when you were on the 5-yard line. 2 opportunities to win games, both hurt by the offensive line's injuries that they're going through right now. So they need to get healthy right now. That's the most important thing for this offensive line, and they're getting healthier and healthier. They might be at their most healthy place they've been all season at the start of next week's game, and hopefully you can get back Wyatt Teller. And again, if you're going to be wanting to run that ball a lot more, getting back Wyatt Teller, having Jack Conklin next to Wyatt Teller, that's important. If you're worried about this offensive line getting beat by stunts and twists, getting back Wyatt Teller and pairing him with a veteran like Jack Conklin on that right side, that's going to do a lot to alleviate the stunts and twists if you have veteran players on both sides of the offensive line. So if we want the offensive line to improve because we want the offensive play to be better, and maybe you're one of the people who thinks that the decision or the observation on Deshaun Watson is not yet complete, I'm not there. I think the observation is pretty complete. I'll be transparent, but even if you're not with me on that, and you're one of the people who feel like I need to see cleaner play from the offensive line for my observation to be complete with Deshaun, you're getting closer and closer to that. So there it is. The Browns offense is getting healthier. I do think it matters a ton. You're getting Nick Chubb back. I've seen a lot of comments also saying like, oh, Nick Chubb's going to get hurt behind this offensive line. And I just want to ask this question to anybody saying that. What does that really mean? Because like that's an argument used for a quarterback, because the assumption is if you have a bad offensive line, the quarterback's going to get tackled, and the quarterback getting tackled, not good. In what scenario do you not expect your running back to get tackled? Like we're just talking about, does Nick Chubb get tackled behind the line of scrimmage or 5 yards down the line of scrimmage? Like the difference of offensive line does not affect Nick Chubb's ability to get injured. And also, like, keep in mind, most running back injuries happen not when you're in the pile on the line of scrimmage, when you're not running at full speed. Most running back injuries happen in the open field. Case in point, Nick Chubb's injury did not happen behind the line of scrimmage. It happened in the open field. So, like, I really want to, like, ask people in good faith that question, because, like, I keep seeing it pop up in the comment section. And like, I don't understand how you get there. Like maybe you're using quarterback logic on Nick Chubb, but quarterback logic isn't the same thing as running back logic. Nick Chubb's not going to get hurt because the offensive line's bad. He's just going to get tackled and not be as productive. But like Nick Chubb's always going to get tackled. The injury, the concern you have for injury with the running backs actually when they're in the open field. That's when guys can go low on them, funky things can happen, but you're safer getting tackled around the line of scrimmage or 5 yards, like within the realm of the play. You look at running back injuries, they almost always, the bad ones, happen in the open field or semi in the open field. They're not around the line of scrimmage most times. So don't get that whole line of thought or concern. I just think people are just worried about Nick Chubb and they don't want him to get injured, and it's not really a logical thing. That's where I got to get on it. But I did want to address that to anybody who was wondering or concerned about that the offensive line not being great is going to be a danger to Nick Chubb's health. I can alleviate that concern. I'm telling you right now, that's not how that works. It's possible that Nick Chubb could get hurt if he gets tackled, but I mean, that's possible for literally every player that's going to play. The offensive line does not increase those odds one bit. Also, can Jerry Jeudy be a number one wide receiver? That's going to be a question here. Look, as much as we've complained about Amari Cooper this year, every time Amari Cooper has not been able to play as a Cleveland Brown, we felt it. Now, Jerry Jeudy has not been here the last 2 years. So maybe the thought process is that Jerry Jeudy can fill that void as a number one wide receiver. But this is a void he's never been asked to fill in the NFL. He was never a number one wide receiver in Denver. He has not been the number one wide receiver in his short time here in Cleveland. Now, he's played well as the Browns' probably most reliable wide receiver target. And you can argue that Deshaun Watson and him probably have the best chemistry of all these guys. But he hasn't been a number one wide receiver. So I'm interested to see how that works because he doesn't block well. And sometimes he's not running the hardest through his routes. So maybe him being put at number one kind of increases that. I'm also interested to see, like, does this put Elijah Moore at 2 on the outside and then Cedric Tillman on the inside at slot? Or does this keep Jerry Jeudy in the slot? You put Cedric Tillman as the X, but not the 1. And then you put Elijah Moore is the other outside wide receiver. I think there's a lot of different ways you can flip it. I'm interested to see how this wide receiving core responds to it. Now, again, Cincinnati's defense is not great, so it wouldn't surprise me if they had a decent game. At the end of the day, these guys are professionals. But I'm just interested to see how this shakes out for the rest of the year. I think this is part of like evaluating to see what you need to get in free agency in the draft next year. But I also think this is them trying to see what they got in Jerry Jeudy because he has had a strong start in the season. And look, I know a lot of people are saying that the Amari Cooper trade is a sign that they're going to start tanking, but I don't think that's the case. If a couple of things bounced the Browns' way, right, and the Browns had a 4-win record instead of a 1-win record, I still think they would have considered to trade Amari Cooper because the issue with Amari Cooper is that he just hasn't been productive for whatever reason it has been, right? Whether it's dissatisfaction with the offense, dissatisfaction with the front office, dissatisfaction with the quarterback specifically, something went wrong. He has not been productive, or maybe he just might be cooked at this point in his career. I don't think the record dictated whether the Browns would have made that move. I think the compensation did. So even if the Browns were like getting lucky and squeezing out of these games and were sitting at like a 4-win record instead of a 1-win record, I really think they would have traded Amari Cooper based on his performance this year because it just didn't look like somebody who was going to be able to live up to the expectations or somebody who you were going to want to consider bringing back on a contract for next year. And if that's not the case, if he's not producing at a number one receiver level and he's not somebody you want to bring back to be a number one receiver level, then you're kind of wasting time with him being on your roster, especially if somebody's willing to give you a 3rd-round pick in return for him. I think the situation the Browns are in is kind of painting how people feel about that. But in all honesty, I think the Browns, like after thinking about this, I think the Browns make that trade. Whether the Browns have a great record or not at this point, because it was more about how Amari was playing. Now, if Amari was coming out the gates, had like 500 yards already, no, they don't make that trade. But the performance of Amari Cooper dictated that trade, not necessarily the record of the Cleveland Browns, because the Browns could easily be sitting here at like 3-2 or something like that if the ball just bounces their way or they don't get a penalty called here or there. And they would have still made that move, in my opinion. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.